Getting ready for the first round of the Full Grip Games League Tournament. We've got Andrew Barlow on the left versus Jesse Parker on the right. Very excited about this match we have ahead. Glad I have the deck lists with me. Thanks to Natalie Champagne for bringing those back. I was able to see that Jesse Parker plans on playing the Tangrowth deck. Apparently this is a deck that Eric from Rare Candy had been showing off lately and playing in his locals. So that is very cool. We're going to get to see that Tangrowth deck in action here tonight. Andrew Barlow is playing Lucario and Melmetal. I think that's unfortunately for Andrew, or unfortunately for Jesse. Seems like it seems like Jesse's Tangrowth deck, I'm wondering if it can do enough damage to really add up on these Lucario and Melmetals. But the more I'm thinking about it, Lucario and Melmetal has a pretty hefty retreat cost. So that could add up pretty quickly. Lucario and Melmetal's got a retreat of 3. Grass Knot does 30 more damage for each colorless in your opponent's active Pokemon's retreat cost. So Grass Knot will do a base 100 damage. And then with Absols in the mix, that damage can get boosted all the way up to potentially 150, even higher, 160, 190. I mean, really, with 3 Absols in play, Tangrowth is doing a base 190 damage. So that is pretty wild. I mean, that is substantial. And now that I have thought about it for more than 2 seconds, I'm thinking that Jesse is probably favored. At first I was like, oh, Andrew's like totally favored here. He's going to be able to, really reduce that Tangrowth's damage output. But now that I'm thinking about it, that Tangrowth's damage output can really get sky high for just 1 energy. So that GX attack on the Lucario Melmetal is not going to be stripping away too many energy with it either. Full Metal Wall GX only removing 1 energy. Not that big of a deal. So I think that we're going to have an interesting match, that is for sure. And I'm stoked to see how it turns out. See, I'm trying to post to Facebook. I never post to Facebook about events, but I'm sitting here trying to post to Facebook. So we'll see if I can get that up and going. Drop a post in Hey Fonte and let everybody know we're streaming a league challenge. So hang with me here for a second while I do that. All right. And I know Natalie sent me a picture to use for the post, but Natalie, if you're listening, that picture did not go through. So I had to figure it out, and I'm using my own pic. It's cool, though. All right. Sick. All right. We'll post in Hey Fonte. And I don't know, maybe people will come hang out that don't typically come and hang out. Maybe we'll get some new blood in here. Oh, but thank you guys all so much for chilling with us tonight on this lovely Wednesday evening. Just a week till Christmas. Can't wait. I'm very excited for this holiday season. New Year's as well. And we are actually going to be hosting our Wednesday night league tournaments on Thursdays the next 2 weeks. So just a little heads up there. We are going to have Thursday night league tournaments the day after Christmas and the day after New Year's, because I am not going to be working or streaming on Christmas or New Year's. So those are rescheduled, just so that you guys know. Nintendane says, I'm new folk, love your YouTube and glad I could join the stream. Thank you so much, Nintendane, for hanging out. Natalie is like, what is he saying about me? I can't hear. Just nice things. Nice things only. Natalie. Natalie's the best, guys. She's the greatest. Not quite sure what the delay is here on the tournament floor. But I think that Jesse's strategy here, I have his deck list, so I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the deck list and see what kind of plays we could come to expect from Jesse's deck. He's got the Tangrowths in deck. Has got 4 Absol. It runs the Jirachi engine as well. These players are getting started. The first round of the Full Grip Games League Challenge here tonight. Jesse Parker on the right playing a Tangrowth deck. Pretty rogue deck that I've seen on YouTube a little bit, seen on the Pokemon message boards, people talking about this. It was a deck that Eric from Rare Candy had played at some local tournaments and seems really neat. It uses Grass Knot to deal tons of damage to the defending Pokemon for just 1 Grass Energy. Grass Knot deals 10 damage plus 30 more damage for each colorless in your opponent's active Pokemon's retreat cost. And then the deck uses Absol to increase the defending Pokemon's retreat cost. And thank you so much, Denward, for the Twitch Prime sub. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, Tricky Jim. So I'm really excited to see this deck in action. I have never seen the Tangrowth deck perform before. Jesse is getting a big draw on this first turn with 2 Tanglas on the bench. He's going to communicate a 3rd Tangela in. And Andrew has got his Megalopunny and Jigglypuff Tag Team GX in the active. That card is not going to be a card that Andrew is looking to utilize in this matchup. Megalopunny and Jigglypuff is not the ideal Pokemon for Andrew by any means, because there are no tag team Pokemon from what I could tell in Jesse's deck. He's got a copy of Mimikyu in the deck. He's got Tanglas, and it looks like he's got to communicate away a Tangela for an Absol and then use Netball to get the Tangela back out into play. That is a very cool play from Jesse. I'm digging that. And that's 3 Tangela on the bench, turn 1, with a Shrine of Punishment. So Jesse is going to start racking up that damage very quickly before Andrew even gets to take a turn. Now the ball is in Andrew's court. He's got that Full Art Green's Exploration I do see in his hand, so he is going to have some draw available to him. He's got a turn 1 Energy Spinner 2, so he can get his energy of choice out of the deck. And this list does look very similar to Malachi Spark's 2nd place regional list, the Lucario Melmetal deck. So he is going to probably try to, get some Lucario Melmetals out. He may try to set up Omastar in order to block Jesse's items. But I feel like at this point, the damage may already be done. Jesse is set up. How quickly could Andrew really set up his item lock? I'm not entirely sure. Looks like Jesse's Tangrowth deck does also feature a Pheromosa and Buzzwole Tag Team GX. So Jesse does run 1 GX Pokemon. And that Pheromosa and Buzzwole can finish off things that have been weakened by Tangrowth, taking bonus prizes in the mix. The deck does just run 8 Grass Energy, so no Beast Energy, in order to really boost that Buzzmosa's damage output. And I'm thinking the Pheromosa and Buzzwole is just going to be used sparingly. Thank you so much, Poisonous Panda, for the Tier 1 sub. Appreciate it, Poisonous Panda. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Andrew's going to go in with a Pokegear 3.0, finds himself a Welder. And he did that after using his energy spinner, so I like that. Thinning the deck first, giving himself better odds of finding live cards off of the Pokegear 3.0. Welder is great for accelerating energy onto his Lucario and Melmetals so that they can attack quickly. They do deal 150 damage with that heavy impact attack, so he is going to be able to one-hit KO these Tangrowths, but the Tangrowths damage will ramp much quicker. Andrew also will need to set up 2 Pokemon so that he can Mallow and Lana between them. Looks like Andrew does have the turn 1 Welder to accelerate onto his bench Lucario Melmetal. He's got the Frying Pan as well, and a Metal Energy. He's got the second Metal Energy in his hand, so he is going to be able to launch a turn 2 Heavy Impact, but no Counter Stadium, and Jesse's Shrine of Punishment is going to be racking up more residual damage on these Tag Team Pokemon GX. And would you look at that, Jesse has got 2 Tangrowths and an energy to retreat his Absol in the active. He is ready to go here using Cynthia, and he can just easily retreat into his Tangrowth and get a turn 2 Grass Knot. Now, unfortunately, Mega Lopunny and Jigglypuff has only got a base retreat of 1. So he can add 2 retreat to that with his Absols. If he finds a third, he will be dealing much more damage. So he's looking at 100 damage with 2 Absols. He's increased the Mega Lopunny's retreat by 2. And with the base 1, Grass Knot would be dealing 100 damage to the Mega Lopunny. And if he can find 1 more Absol, then next turn he's going to be looking at a KO, assuming that Andrew is able to bump this stadium. It's looking like 110 going through with 20 damage. It'll be at 130. Really, if this Shrine does not get bumped, Jesse is looking at a knockout this next turn on the Mega Lopunny and Jigglypuff. But I suspect that Andrew Barlow is going to have something to say about that. I do see a Mallow and Lana already in his hand. He can completely heal this Mega Lopunny and Jigglypuff. However, the Mallow and Lana, I am sure that Andrew will want to save that for his Lucario and Melmetal GX, because this is his main attacker. He really wants to preserve the energy that he worked so hard to get on the Lucario and Melmetal. And we see him going for the Greens Exploration instead of the Mallow and Lana that was already in his hand. And you could feel the gears turning, Andrew Barlow trying to figure out how can he muscle his way through this horde of Tangrowths that is already set up on Jesse's side of the field. We see Andrew opt to get the Mysterious Treasure and a switch, so he will be taking a knockout this next turn. Mysterious Treasure giving him an option to potentially set up that Omastar so that he can put Jesse under item lock. I think that Jesse's ability to stream Tangrowths will definitely be hindered by a potential Omastar, but I'm wondering how easy will it be for Andrew to set that Omastar up. There's not exactly any search cards in standard format. For Omastar, you just got to use Pokemon Communication. So you can't just greens for it. You have to have another Pokemon in your hand, and this deck only plays 5 Pokemon. So getting a Pokemon into your hand is not the easiest thing to do for Andrew's deck. It plays 3 Lucario Melmetals, 1 Mega Lopunny and Jigglypuff, and just 1 copy of Omastar. So the Pokemon Communication, though it does trade one of those tag team Pokemon for Omastar, well, there he is. Never mind. The Omastar is already in Andrew Barlow's hand, so the hard part is already accomplished. The hardest part about setting up the Omastar is quite literally just finding the Omastar. Barlow has already got it in his hand, so he could use Green's Exploration next turn to guarantee himself and Omastar. But I suspect that once this Lucario Melmetal takes a hit from Grass Knot, he's going to want to heal it off. He has not used his GX attack yet, so he's only reducing the damage from Grass Knot by 30. Jesse using a Cynthia, drawing pretty well off of it. He's already got the grass energy for his Tangrowth. He's got a great catcher he can use to bring up the Mega Lopunny on the bench if he would like to finish that off for 3 prizes. I think Jesse is best off swinging into the active, though, and really putting forth as much pressure as he can on the Lucario Melmetal. If he gusts up the Mega Lopunny, he just gives Andrew Barlow another free turn of attacking with the Lucario Melmetal without having to worry about healing it. Whereas if Jesse just swings into the Lucario Melmetal, then Andrew has got to figure something out to heal the Lucario Melmetal, and it puts him in a much tighter spot. Whereas if Jesse gusts around it, then he gives Andrew more time to figure those plays out. Also gives him a free turn to be able to greens and set up the Omastar. Jesse would also have to worry about potentially getting reset stamped if he does gust up the bench Mega Lopunny and Jigglypuff. Stamp to 3 and Omastar would be pretty crucial for Jesse to deal with. So I like Jesse's decision here, what I think is his decision here, to swing in to the active Lucario and Melmetal GX. And I believe that is Jesse calculating how much damage that Tangrowth is going to be dealing. It looks like 170 damage on the active. That is prime for a 2-hit KO. Andrew is under a lot of pressure. He's got the Mallow and Lana in hand. He's ready to heal, but another difficult part about that Mallow and Lana is just like, how do you pivot? He just used his switch last turn. I don't think he's got another switch in his hand, so he has to heal using the Mallow and Lana. He may just be sacrificing the Mega Lopunny and Jigglypuff. He cannot retreat it, and it looks like sacrificing is exactly what's going on. Andrew just hoping for a free turn to use the Green's Exploration so that he can set up that Omastar. But Jesse has got the Great Catcher in his hand, and he's considering chasing down that Lucario Melmetal, saying, you know what? I bet you couldn't heal it again if I smacked it again, but I like Jesse's decision here to just save the Great Catcher, take the knockout. However, Andrew Barlow is about to have a critical turn. He counters the Shrine. He's greens. Using greens, he could get the Rare Candy, which we already saw in the deck. He's already got the Omastar in his deck, and he could get Reset Stamp to limit Jesse Parker to just a 3-card hand with item lockout. That would be devastating. Looks like Barlow might skip the Reset Stamp. That or he's already got Reset Stamp in hand. But he did grab the Rare Candy instantly. He knows that's exactly what he wants. It is time to set up Omastar to make this match just a little bit more difficult for Jesse to wade through. And I am excited to see how this deck functions under Omastar item lock. That is going to be a real test here as to how well Jesse can draw without items. The nest balls are very good, or the net balls, excuse me. The net balls in Jesse's deck are very good for finding the grass energy that he so desperately needs turn after turn. In order to continue using Grass Knot, Andrew Barlow does use that Reset Stamp, going to limit Jesse to a 3-card hand, and he has got a minimally damaged Lucario Melmetal in the active position now, ready to take some knockouts in. The first card off the Reset Stamp is a Grass Energy. That is going to continue to put a lot of pressure on Andrew. And if this Lucario Melmetal hits the bin, that's going to be game in Jesse's favor. He's got the grass. I know that Andrew cannot be happy about that. And Jesse looks like he's got a supporter card that's about to be played. A Lily for 5. Big draw off the reset stamp to 3. And he's got himself a Grass Energy for next turn. So he's going to be hitting back-to-back attacks if Andrew Barlow does not disrupt this hand again. And this Lucario Melmetal can only take 2 more hits from Grass Knot before it for sure goes down. Jesse has got the Rosa in his hand too. Rosa is another guarantee for Grass Energy after this Tangrowth gets knocked out. And Andrew Barlow is going to need some fancy footwork to play out of this one. I'm not sure that the Lucario Melmetal deck will be able to handle this much pressure. Jesse has been swinging for the fences every single turn with this Tangrowth deck, hitting huge numbers. In this turn, he's hitting for 160 damage. Minus 30 for the Frying Pan, so 130 additional damage coming from the Tangrowth with Shrine. 140 after Shrine. That Lucario Melmetal has got 210 damage on it. Only 50 hit points remain. Andrew needs a Mallow and Lana. Andrew needs a reset stamp. Andrew needs a counter stadium. He's got the Mallow and Lana, but his hand is not very big, and he doesn't get to draw any more cards after playing it. He has to sacrifice the Omastar. Except, no, he does not. He's got the switch. Wow. He has the Mallow and Lana switch combo in his hand. He's going to be proceeding with another heavy slam here. That is huge. Big play from Andrew. He had just the perfect combination of cards in his hand. I still think that Jesse is clinging on to this game, though. But he's only got 1 Tangrowth. So the concern at this point would be, can Jesse stream enough attacks, or can he take this knockout? Really, the Lucario Melmetal only has 160 hit points left. This should be it. He's going to deal 190, minus 30 for the Frying Pan. I think this is game. With the Shrine of Punishment, this is it. Jesse Parker taking the win with the Tangrowth. I think so anyways, right? Is my math wrong? Grass Knot does base 100 plus 90. Am I missing something? Is this not game? Yeah, 190 plus Shrine. And that's it. Jesse Parker taking the win and emerging victorious with the Tangrowth deck. Wow, what a performance from a rogue deck. Did not expect to see such big numbers coming out of the Tangrowth deck. I'm excited to get Jesse back here for a quick interview to talk about why he chose the Tangrowth deck and what he thinks this deck could do in standard format. We'll be right back with Jesse Parker in just a moment. We got Jesse Parker here at the Full Grip Games League Challenge. Played Tangrowth route.
Yeah.
Now, tell us a little bit about your decision to play Tangrowth.
Well, let's see. I was on Twitter yesterday.
Okay, twitter.com.
Yeah, twitter.com. And then I was scrolling through, and Eric from Rare Candy did well with it at a cup. And I was like, that deck looks pretty fun.
Sure.
So I sleeved it up. And I went on fullgrip.com. And I clicked on
FullGripGames.com.
FullGripGames.com.
I don't know what FullGrip.com is.
Oh, no. Don't go to that. Don't go to that. Just Google it. Be safe. FullGripGames.com. And I added 4 Tangela to my cart. And then I added 4 Tangrowth to my cart. And then I checked out.
Yo, that's lit.
And then I came here and I played it.
That's what's up. And it worked beautifully. Now, I was impressed with how well the deck set.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, obviously, like, it's nice you have netball. You know, it
right.
kind of helps you a little bit.
For sure.
Find your energy, find your, your little Tangelas. I like the list because I think that a guy from Canada, played it at a cup, and he was playing kind of like a beast boxy version with
sure.
like with like different types of energy and beast energy and like Buzzwole and like Nihilego. But the list that Eric played was like just really consistent, like as consistent as you can make a deck
Sure.
like that. Like 8 grass energy and then like the 4 netball, so you like don't really ever miss your energy. So yeah, I mean when the deck draws high, I mean it's a one price. It's like Malamar. It's like grass Malamar.
Sure. Is there a backup plan for like once your 4 Tangrowth get knocked out, or is just those 4 Tangrowth?
You have 5 technically because you have you have your Ditto and then you have Alana's fishing rod.
Okay.
So I mean, like in a perfect world, you have 5. So,
Sure.
And like I guess that's the hardest part. Like sure, I set up really well, but if he was able to keep healing and establish and I wasn't able to keep streaming Tangrowth, you only
Or you prize one.
Or you prize one.
Two,
You really only have like around 3, generally on average, like 3 to use in a game. So.
Sure.
But yeah, I think that's the hardest part of the deck. But kind of punishes the tag teams.
So the shrines were really important in getting
Shrine
that
was doing work.
residual damage for
Yeah.
sure. Oh, we saw there is a copy of Buzzwole, Pheromosa, and Buzzwole Tag Team GX in the deck. Now,
so that's kind of
what uses do you kind of see that having, if any?
Well, I think it's pretty good against Malamar because you can kind of like you kind of punish them because you have so many Absols and you
Sure.
can kind of just jet punch things and
Oh.
then like Beast Game, so you can do like 100 with your Tangrowth on a Giratina, then like Beast Game it to
For
finish,
sure.
to clean it up because sometimes you don't always get a lot of Absols down. I'm not really sure. Whenever I see Buzzwole Pheromosa in a list, I'm always so confused like how people use it because
Right.
you're only doing 50 damage with the GX move. So it's like what are you knocking out? And you don't have any way of gusting up like a small guy because all you have is Great Catcher. So I don't really know. I think maybe it's just like to, finish things off on the bench. I don't know. The list had it in there, so I threw it in there. So,
Hey, it's just a classic.
I don't really know the best
ship
way to
it.
use it, but I guess Beast Game can come in clutch sometimes.
For sure, and
Like-
sniping can sometimes
Yeah, and I guess
be
like
good.
so I guess like if you get like 180, like 200 damage on a tag team, like maybe Beast Game can like take you 4 prizes or something.
That'd be lit,
That'd
right?
be awesome.
Yeah.
Maybe I can do
With
that too.
Shrine,
Yeah,
maybe-
yeah.
It's almost like you might as well just play it because you only got 4 Tangrowth, so
Right.
it's like
And you got to use your GX move.
might just
I mean,
need a 5th guy.
if your GX move's just sitting there and you never get to flip it, that's kind of boring. So
For sure.
yeah.
It's better to have the option, I would say, than having no option at
Yeah,
all.
right,
So
right,
I
right.
can get behind that. You could also use it versus Pidgey, I guess. If they don't play the Mutant
yeah.
on Broken Bonds, then you could snipe all around and then Beast Game something to like
Right.
really finish the game quickly.
From what I saw, like he was saying that the Buzzmosa is mostly for Malamar.
Okay.
So I don't know how he's really using it. Maybe it's to punish if they put like 40 on like one of their bench guys. You can like, because their guys aren't retreating. They have 2 switch and then they're not ever manually retreating. So
Right.
I don't know. Maybe it punishes that, trap something. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Jesse, and good
Yeah.
luck at the challenge tonight.
Thanks.
Hopefully we'll see you at the top tables in later rounds.
yeah.
Getting ready for the second round of the Full Grip Games League Challenge. We've got John Mostowy on the left versus Frank Persick on the right. For those of you that are fans of non-GX decks, we have got another non-GX deck on the table here. John Mostowy has got a pretty spicy deck, as John is known to cook up. He has got a Spiritomb deck. It looks like it plays Spiritomb. It's got maybe a Mimikyu in it, and a Heracross, and a Buzzmosa. So I'm not exactly sure how this deck works. It does have Hustle Belts in it as well, and Zebstrika. So John is going to be using Spiritomb to put damage counters on itself with Building Spite, and then put a lot of pressure onto his opponent with cards like Shrine of Punishment, and he's also got Hustle Belts to deal increased damage, Great Catcher to chase down things that he has not quite finished off. Tate has got some pretty funny stories about testing with John in the chat. Yes, John loves a rogue deck. He famously piloted the Lucario and Melmetal Welder deck to a top 16 finish at Knoxville. Before playing Lucario, Melmetal was very cool. So that was awesome to see, and definitely a cool notch on John's belt as a rogue deck builder and rogue deck player. I usually am seeing John playing something off the beaten path, that is for sure. Frank Persick, an accomplished player in his own right, playing what I believe is Justin Bakari's regional winning Garchomp and Giratina Tag Team GX deck. He's going to be utilizing Miss Magius to force John to take some prize cards and then trying to gain some advantage by probably attacking quickly and using reset stamp, things like that. Oh no, John has to bench Ditto and pass. That is a horrible start for John. Really hate to see it. Frank, on the other hand, has got a Greens Exploration. Is going to be going in and getting started right away with a Tag Call, potentially a Dust Stone, too. He could draw out of this Miss Magius in the active, and Frank could get the turn 1 knockout on that Ditto very easily with Garchomp and Giratina Tag Team GX. Novocaine is saying he had a lecture in hand. So maybe John did not pass. Maybe he took that off a mulligan? Is that the case? Maybe Frank is going first and John benched the Ditto off of a mulligan. Thank you, Natalie, for clarifying. All right. John did not bench Ditto and pass. He benched the Ditto off a mulligan draw. All is well, folks. John did not open a dead hand. Excellent. So Frank is setting up his board, and he is not going to be able to attack since this is his first turn going first. I was just judging from John's hand gestures there. It looked like he benched the Ditto real quick and passed. But Frank is going first. He's got a Fighting Energy on his Garchomp and Giratina Tag Team GX. I suspect that Linear Attack is going to be a tough hurdle for John to overcome. It looks like John does not play a Mew from Unbroken Bonds. Why, John? Why? It does not look like there is a Mew from Unbroken Bonds in this list. So John does not have any bench protection against that Linear Attack. Linear Attack could prove to be quite devastating for this Spiritomb deck. Though, that being said, if Frank does use Linear Attack on the Spiritomb, it does kind of boost its Anguish Cry attack. So that is something to consider as well. John can safely put 10 damage counters on each of his Spiritombs, and then if they get linear attacked, that's kind of right where John wants it, at 50 damage, and he will deal maximum damage with Anguish Cry and a Hustle Belt equipped. John does have a nice little setup, though, and the Mimikyu is something that I'm sure John is going to want to utilize as well. So Frank does have to tread carefully. The Fairy-type Mimikyu can use its Copycat attack to copy whatever attack Frank uses, and I'm thinking that John probably plays Counter Gain, something like that, in order to attack easily with the Mimikyu. It looks like he's got no Counter Gain. That just takes 2 attachments. Looks like John does have a Beastite. But yes, I do not see a Counter Gain. So the Mimikyu could be kind of tough for John to build up and attack with, since it does take 2 energy attachments. And we'll see what Frank is going for this turn. He has got Green's Exploration. He's grabbing Switch and Tag Call. He can get the Garchomp and Giratina into the active position. I'm thinking that Frank may be going for a board setup where he does not use the Misdrevious. I think that would be a very cool play from Frank if he's able to pull it off. I've tried this multiple times myself piloting this deck, getting set up without popping the Mischievous is very difficult for this deck. The deck really does lean on Mischievous to do a lot of the drawing. But Frank looks like he may be trying to set up without using Mischievous, and the reason for that would be he can let the Garchomp and Giratina get knocked out naturally, and then he can go in with his Baby Blacephalon and start spreading 12 damage counters. Now, 12 damage counters spread to John Mostowi's board would be disastrous. And we see Frank going straight ahead, using that linear attack and taking out the Ditto Prism Star that John was not able to evolve up. John does have 10 damage on his Spiritomb, and he's considering putting more on. If he puts more on, he does know that he is in danger of getting his Spiritomb linear attacked, and John does not have any bench barrier abilities. No, what is it, Skyfield? Not Skyfield. Sky Tower? No Sky Tower. He's got no bench barrier, nothing to protect the Spiritomb from the snipe attack of Garchomp and Giratina. And the Spiritomb's only got 60 hit points. It can deal quite a bit of damage, though. Anguish Cry, if Spiritomb has 50 damage on it, can deal base 160 damage, and then Hustle Belt can boost that damage even further. Rainbow Energy can help accelerate damage counters onto the Spiritomb too. So we see John with the Rainbow Energy. He could potentially put 3 damage counters onto the Spiritomb. He can Building Spite to put 10 damage on. He can Rainbow Energy to put 10 damage on. And he could deal 100 damage with Spiritomb this turn. And I'm thinking that John probably has to start putting, I call it Sky Tower, Sky Pillar. Thanks, 12 gauge. John has to start putting pressure onto the Garchomp and Giratina. Probably as soon as possible. Or else Frank is just going to have a field day using the linear attack, spreading damage all over John's board. It looks like John is going to use Reset Stamp just to bring Frank to 5 cards. I don't mind that play, especially since he knows that Frank already has the Green's Exploration in his hand. And then Frank's going to shuffle up and get 5 cards to start off his turn. And I'm wondering, is this a pass from John? Let's see. Frank gets his 5. I don't think there's anything left for John to play in that hand. And that is a pass. Frank will draw for turn. 10 damage with Shrine. And Frank can start chipping away at these Pokemon on John's bench. Frank does have Tag Call. Probably just wants to get a Stadium card to eliminate this chip damage that John is building up. Frank's getting the Guzzlord and Naganado, Tag Team GX, as well as Cynthia and Caitlin to put into his hand with Tag Call, one of the best cards out of Cosmic Eclipse. An absolute game changer, searching out Tag Team Pokemon and Tag Team supporters in this standard format. Both of those are huge. And we see Frank counter the Stadium. He does have the Power Plant in hand. Power Plant isn't going to do much here other than just being a Stadium to counter the Shrine of Punishment that is dealing residual damage every turn. So it is a nice grab for Frank, though John's deck does not play any Pokemon GX or EX with abilities, so it's not going to be doing much there. And we see Frank does have a Mischievous in his hand, or a Mismagius, I should say. Mischievous on the bench, Mismagius in his hand. And he could use that Mismagius to use Mysterious Message and fill his hand to 7. It looks like he's going to wait on that and start targeting down the Mimikyu. I think John is in a pretty tough spot. The Mimikyu seems to be a big part of this matchup, but I'm not sure that John is going to be able to power it up before it gets linear attacked. I think, John was even in a rougher spot because he's had the rainbow energy, but couldn't really attach it anywhere. And if he did attach it to the Mimikyu, Mimikyu copying linear attack is not a very strong move. That's just not going to do a lot. Even hitting for weakness, it would only do 80 damage. So the Mimikyu is not good unless Frank is using Calamitous Slash. And I think that Frank probably does not plan on using Calamitous Slash in this match, much if at all. John has a Professor Oak setup this turn. He's going to be able to search for 3 basic Pokemon of different types, and we see that he is looking at a Spiritomb as well as a Marshadow. So he can bump Stadium. I'm not sure what the Marshadow is for, other than maybe it was just the other off type that he could get and decided to thin it out of his deck. He can bump the power plant, and I think that's probably what we're going to see. It just might as well. And I think at this point, John is committing to attacking with the Spiritomb, and he has a Hustle Belt. So that's good. He's going to be able to deal some boosted damage with the Spiritomb. I think Hustle Belt adds, 40 damage. $60 damage. Wow. It's 30 HP or less. So Hustle Belt's going to be boosting that Anguish Cry to some real numbers here. 100 damage plus 60. 160. Plus the Shrine of Punishment that was already done. So that Garchomp Giratina has 170 damage on it now. That Hustle Belt really boosting that Anguish Cry to some relevant numbers here, setting the Garchomp and Giratina up for a 2-hit KO. And we might see Frank bite and say, all right, I need to actually use my Mismagius now. But it looks like no, he's just going to go get the Baby Blacephalon out of the deck and potentially set that up onto the bench. If he can build up the Baby Blacephalon, John has got to be looking at that like, oh no. Yeah, that's right. If John takes the knockout on the Garchomp and Giratina, which he wants to do, then Frank could just spread all over this board with the Blacephalon, especially if Frank has an energy attachment for this turn to lay onto the Baby Blacephalon. That could be huge. Instead, opting to put an energy on the Naglord. We see the Naglord, we see the Psychic. I feel like the Psychic energy on the Blacephalon is a really good play, as this Garchomp and Giratina is most likely going down, and then Frank will just be 1 energy attachment away from spreading 12 onto John's board and really taking a surplus of prizes. When Frank has the Green's Exploration in his hand, he really just needs to lay the Psychic onto the Blacephalon. I love this play right here. Frank lets that Psychic go. That's excellent. I love this. Frank has got the greens. He should be able to greens for an energy spinner to get himself a second Psychic energy, or potentially even the counter gain to be able to attack with this Blacephalon. And he's really putting John in kind of a checkmate scenario, saying, okay, you're in a bad position if you do it. You're in a bad position if you don't. You have to take out my Garchomp and Giratina. But that Blacephalon looming in the background is poised and ready to go. John does not have any way to target down the Blacephalon on Frank's bench, aside from copying linear attack with the Mimikyu, but that is only going to deal 40 damage. It's not really going to add up quick enough before that Mimikyu can get taken out. So I really like this line of play from Frank. This is definitely some pro plays here, and his hands have cooperated, allowing him to set up the Blacephalon without using Mismagius. It's not the easiest thing to do. The deck does not always cooperate and just give you the Green's Exploration every turn, but we see that Frank has been persistent about just staying the course, using greens, and setting up his deck that way. If Frank can hold on to those greens every turn, he should be able to pull off the Blacephalon play for 12. And that'll wipe out a good chunk of John's board. I mean, the Mimikyu has already got 4 damage counters on it. John does have a Black Market Prism Star and a Pokemon Communication. Frank's going to read the Black Market Prism Star. It prevents prizes from being taken, or one prize from being taken, from Pokemon that have dark energy attached to it, I believe, right? Or is it just dark Pokemon in general? Black Market. Dark energy, yes. So it is dark energy. Any Pokemon that has any dark energy attached to it is knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack. That player takes 1 fewer prize card. So that would be very helpful for John. I mean, it prevents Frank from taking prizes when he knocks out Spiritomb. Inevitably. John does have the Hustle Belt, and then he is going to ditch his hand with Zebstrika's Sprint to draw 4 cards. And JW in the chat pointing out that if John is able to get Buzzmosa in the mix, the Buzzmosa taking bonus prizes could be a crucial play. If John gets the Buzzwole and Pheromosa and Buzzwole Tag Team GX out, then he could start sniping damage and eventually Beast Game GX. Beast Game GX could just be the play that he needs to skip ahead and win this game. And it looks like John is just going to bide some time. I like this from John. John not biting on the Giratina knockout. I mean, he may not have drawn the energy he needed, but I think patience is key for John right now. Though Frank does only have 4 prizes left to take, Frank cannot take a meaningful knockout this turn. He could do 4 damage counters to the Spiritomb. That's not really going to do anything. And it looks like he's just going to linear attack the Jirachi, and that's it for Frank. So both players at a little bit of a stalemate, playing back and forth. And it looks like John is going to go for a Guzma and Hala play, discarding Guzma and Hala, as well as another supporter. What could he be getting? He's got a skateboard. He could get the Beast Energy if he had it, but he does not have the Buzzmosa available to him. He's got a nice looking Rainbow Energy. I have not seen those old Rainbow Energies. I'm not even sure if those are tournament legal, to be honest, but I would assume so if John is using it. I know you can't use the ones from Team Rocket. Those are worded differently, but those are some nice old Rainbow Energies for sure. John just searching for the Rainbow Energy. I think that's from, like, what, Legend Maker, I think I saw. And he's got an escape board. Skateboard dropped onto... That's not Legend Maker. What is that? It's an old Rainbow Energy. I can't tell what set it is. He's got the Rainbow on the Spiritomb, and then it's going to sprint. So he can take this knockout, but at what cost? He's going to eat 12 damage counters. That's 2 more prizes to Frank. That being said, he does have the Black Market Prism Star out. So, no, because the Black Market only stops your opponent from taking prizes from damage from an opponent's attack. And the Blacephalon places damage counters. So Blacephalon actually gets around the Black Market Prism Star. And hopefully that is something that that gets played correctly. So I'm hoping that Natalie's there watching the match. That should be good to go. If Frank does take a knockout on the Spiritomb, even with the Black Market Prism Star down, he should take a knockout because the Black Market Prism Star only gets triggered when damage is the cause of the knockout. Damage being dealt. And in the Pokemon trading card game, damage being dealt is different than damage counters placed. So Blacephalon gets around that ruling by placing damage counters instead of dealing damage. It's a small nuance, a little ruling there in the language in the Pokemon trading card game, but it does make a big difference sometimes. Things like Mew from Unbroken Bonds blocks damage, but does not block the placement of damage counters. So Blacephalon has got the counter gain on it, so he can use that Fireworks Bomb for 12 damage counters. The Jirachi has only got 3 remaining. And we see Frank also using Beast Ring to set up a checkmate board scenario. And he's going to Beast Ring onto the Naganadel and Guzzlord Tag Team GX. So by Beast Ringing to the Naganadel and Guzzlord GX, he is ensuring that he will be able to take his final prize, pretty much, with the Naganadel and Guzzlord's GX attack, which takes 2 prizes. Frank also deciding to evolve his Mismagius, which is good so long as he does not blow it up yet. He needs to let John stay on 3 prizes, and Frank read the black market one more time to make sure that he did read it correctly, and he will take 3 prize cards. And I believe that those guys are talking about the ruling of Black Market Prism Star now. And yes, they got the ruling correctly. Excellent. And now John is left without much of a board state. That Blacephalon wreaking havoc on John's game. He will have the stamp, but Frank has got that Mischievous set up on the bench. All Frank needs is to use the GX attack with the Naganadel and Guzzlord, and he'll take a prize. Or he could just attack with the Naganadel and Guzzlord. There's a bunch of different ways this game can end. And if John knocks out the Blacephalon, he has to knock out the Blacephalon. He can't afford not to. But he's in a bad situation. If he does take the knockout, he just invites the Naganadel and Guzzlord into the active. He doesn't take the knockout, then Frank gets to snipe 12 more damage counters onto his side of the field. It's just a real grindy situation for John, and I'm not sure that John has much of a way out of it. He does have the Buzzmosa, which is cool, but I think it might be a little bit too late. A little bit too late for the Buzzmosa. We see John going into his Jirachi, searching his options, seeing if there's anything else that can possibly dig him out of this. I don't think that there's anything that he's going to be able to whip up here. I hope he proves me wrong. But that might just be it. If John doesn't take a prize this turn, then Frank can just spread 12 more damage counters if he finds an energy. And I don't even believe that John has an energy yet. No, he has to sprint his whole hand away, looking for an energy. And John has got an energy. He's got a rainbow there that he can use on the Buzzmosa, but 30 damage to the active and 30 damage to the bench is not going to be quite enough to stop Frank from taking this final prize. That being said, oh no, John's going to scoop it up. We'll see. I mean, it's interesting because if Frank does use the Mischievous, then he doesn't necessarily just win automatically because the counter gain is turned off, right? And the Blacephalon's got a retreat of 2, and the Naglord on the bench does need an additional energy in order to use its attack. So would have been interesting to see if Frank drew out of that, but it looks like John with his back up against the wall is just saying, all right, you know what? You got it, bud. Frank Persick emerging victorious with the Garchomp and Giratina Tag Team GX deck in round 2 of the Full Grip Games League Challenge. We're going to get Frank back here for an interview, talk about his play with Garchomp and Giratina GX in just a moment. Thank you all so much for watching. We will be right back. All right, we got Frank Persick, just round 2 of the Full Grip Games League Challenge. How you doing, Frank?
Good. How are you doing, Andrew?
Good, man, with the Garchomp Giratina deck.
Yes.
Making it look easy.
Most recent regional winning deck list.
Yep. I believe they're my cards, too, right?
Yeah, no, I went to your apartment, yes, before this. I went to your apartment before the tournament.
Yeah.
And, grabbed and picked it up, Yeah,
it's a loner deck.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, you played it like a pro, Frank. You did very well. I really liked. Walk us through the strategy. I really like the way that you mapped that matchup out.
Yeah, and so the matchup is not difficult per se, but if you have to play it correctly, because I think this deck I've been playing it for a little bit. I think last week here I might have played it on stream once or the week before. It is very hard to play, and basically, most decks you just want to take a knockout on the active,
right.
Kind of do those kind of plays. And then even this deck, you kind of want to turn 1, almost Magus twice, stamp my opponent to 4, and this,
right.
Is really one of those matchups you can't do that. You have the Blacephalon in there for a reason, and when you have decks that are putting damage on themselves, like Malamar sometimes with the Shadow Impact and Spiritomb, you kind of want to just fill their board with damage and then use the Blacephalon. And the only way you can really do that, or the most efficient way to do that, is to not use the Mismagius at all until your first GX gets knocked out, and you can go on to 3 prizes, which is
for sure.
It's very hard to kind of hit the brakes there doing that.
Yes, it is tough because the deck really relies on the Mismagius in order to draw cards. So it's very grindy trying to set up your board in your hand to pull off the Blacephalon play without using Mismagius. Right?
Yeah.
So you have to greens, you have to make sure you're grabbing the right cards. But the thing is that linear deck was putting forth enough pressure that John had to deal with it.
Yeah, and it was nice too that it was just a 1 attachment attack. I literally could, most games I was just drawing. I had a great hand all game.
Yeah.
And I would just draw and put 40 somewhere and then wait for, the time to come where I had to do these other things. And making sure you're just playing out your greens a few turns ahead. I greens for, I think another greens that one turn when I got the switch, and it's because I knew I needed to eventually get the counter gain and the Beast Ring on that one turn to set up that kind of checkmate play and the Mismagius to draw.
Exactly, for sure. And we saw that that's kind of how the game was going to wrap up there in the final turns. Now, is this a deck that you think is going to keep its steam heading into the new format, the new year with Sword and Shield? I know,
man,
those
are
big questions,
Andrew.
Pokemon V, things like that. I mean, the deck seems inherently powerful in that it just can womp threats from the bench, with that GG end attack. But, any thoughts going forward?
I'm not sure. I really don't know. I looked at a lot of what the V cards do, and I think the interactions are going to be a little bit different. Especially you don't have the first turn supporter rule anymore.
Right, things like that.
So greens on turn 1 going first to plan out your next turn is not going to be a thing anymore. So I think that makes a lot of greens decks inherently less strong. So I think at face value, just because of that, I would probably say no. But you know, I didn't even think this deck was going to be good at like
this
after.
past
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
anything can really happen.
You know, and now it's like looking like one of the best decks.
Yeah, I think
crazy.
I think it has a very 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 good deck, but it's very 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 hard to play. Like I've took this to 2 or 3 tournaments, and I think I dropped most of the tournaments because of just like some of the smallest nuances. Like I played against Baby Blacephalon, I think, one round, and they had knocked out a Misdreavus early, and I chose to attach energy and linear attack, whereas I should have attached a counter and like powered up the bench.
Yeah.
And it's like, why would I? You know, like thinking to do that is just like.
Tough to route,
oh
and then
my
you
gosh.
also get really punished for your prizes. Sometimes you're like, oh, my belt is prized, or
Yeah,
my
yeah,
counter gain's
exactly.
prized, or my
I don't know.
Blacephalon's prized.
I don't know.
There's a lot of one-ups in there that like, yeah, you need to have them at the right time. The beast ring, you know, the thing. You know, there are a lot of one-ups in the deck, and if any of them are prized, like if your Blacephalon's prized against a deck where you need to do the 12 damage counter Blacephalon strategy, it's a no-go.
And I don't even know if you saw my prizes that game. My last 3 prizes were Guzman Hala, Malon Lana, and Lieutenant Surge's strategy, which are just like very integral pieces of the deck. And
For
so
sure.
it was, I wanted to Malon Lana very early on to just keep putting on linear attack pressure, and then kind of like forced me to use the Blacephalon and play a little sooner than I wanted to. And that was prized, and Surge, I couldn't do any funky things with that, it's just like that can happen sometimes. But the deck is inherently good enough that you can like find a route. You just have to like really think about it.
For sure. All right, well, thanks for the insight, Frank, and good luck in your next round.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew.
Take it easy, man. Round 3 of the Full Grip Games League Tournament getting underway now. We have got Tom Marting on the left versus Nick Baker on the right. Tom Marting is going to be piloting Mewtwo and Mew Tag Team GX. Nick Baker has got the fan favorite, Pidgeotto Control. All right, so we've got Pidgeotto Control versus Mewtwo and Mew Tag Team GX on the table for the 3rd round of our league challenge. Thank you so much, Wordactyl, for the Tier 1 sub, 4 months. A Tricky Gym member. Thank you so much, Wordactyl, for supporting the channel. Appreciate it. And this matchup can be pretty tight, actually. Mewtwo and Mew can use Espeon and Deoxys, Tag Team GX, and Cross Division GX to wipe out an entire board of Pidgeys. So, Pidgey haters, rejoice. There is hope for Tom's Mewtwo and Mew deck. Also, a valuable asset for Mewtwo and Mew is Turbo Strike. It can copy Solgaleo GX's Turbo Strike to accelerate energy into play. So even with the constant barrage of Crushing Hammers and Cold Crush GXs from the Pidgey deck, Mewtwo and Mew still has a way to thrive. Nick is starting out with the Oranguru. Turn 1 is going to be digging into the deck and getting some Pidgeys into play. This is an ideal start for Nick. I mean, maybe ideal would be Jirachi, but this is still very strong. He's got 2 Pidgeys and a Pidgeotto that he will be grabbing out of the deck to start drawing cards as early as the 2nd turn. He's going to take a quick scan through the list to make sure that nothing essential is prized. Nick's primary strategy is going to be to try to remove energy from Tom. And Tom started that Charizard and Braixen Tag Team GX, which has a pretty hefty retreat cost on it. Nick will probably want to strand this card into the active position and try to just keep the energy off of it so that Tom has a tough time attacking. With a retreat of 3, that could be a valid strategy. However, Charizard and Braixen does have that Crimson Flame Pillar GX, which is an option for the deck. Crimson Flame Pillar GX does get energy back from the discard pile and accelerate it into play. However, if Tom uses Crimson Flame Pillar GX, he will not be able to use the invaluable Cross Division GX. So that is something that we're going to see play out in this matchup as well. Looks like Tom is getting started with a tag call. Might search himself out a Mewtwo, as well as maybe a tag supporter or something like that. He's also just scanning through his deck, seeing what he may have prized, if anything important is in the prizes. Going to want to take note of it, make sure that he plays around that. And I'm looking for... Did I not? Man, my biases must have been coming out when I was formulating my my image scan folder, because I do not have a Rangaroo saved right now. Looks like Thomas is going to get Mewtwo and Mew Tag Team GX. He also has a Dedenne GX that he searched with using Cherish Ball. He's going to discard the Espeon and Deoxys, and Thomas is getting off to a pretty aggressive start with the Mewtwo and Mew deck. He's going to get a big draw with Dedenne GX, and I think that's the name in the game for Thomas, is that he just wants to go fast. Set up as quickly as possible and try to get a big cross division. He's also getting Marshadow out of the deck, a very valuable card in this matchup, because he can bump the Power Plants. Power Plant is another essential strategy that Nick is going to be able to use to stop this Mewtwo from attacking. The Mewtwo just using Turbo Strike turn after turn is going to be pretty rough for the Pidgey deck to deal with. So definitely important to get that Marshadow into play in case Tom does not have a counter to Nick's Power Plants when he plays them down. And as we see, he is going in with the Giant Hearth. Slammed it down, discarded a Rainbow Energy. He's got a Rainbow Energy attached to his Mewtwo and Mew. Looks like he's going to discard a Charizard GX and get himself 2 Fire Energy out of the deck. Wondering if he has a Welder in his hand. Meanwhile, I am looking for an image of a Rangaroo. Full disclosure, I am trying to get an image of a Rangaroo for the stream right now online so that I can slap it up onto the, onto the old viewer for you guys. I just love multitasking. I try to make it as seamless as possible, but then sometimes my brain is on overload and I have to just go full disclosure and tell you guys what I'm doing. And I am right now downloading an image of a Rangaroo. So, sorry, but it'll be up shortly, and then we're good to go. All right, I've got the image downloaded. Back to the game. Nick Baker going in with a crushing hammer. It's a Tails. He's got Pokegear as well. He's digging for a supporter. 2 Pidgeotos set up. So he's got a very strong board position to combat this Mewtwo and Mew deck. And he's going to want to try and keep as many of the energies out of play as possible so that he just makes it harder for Tom to stream attacks like that Turbo Strike. I mean, really, the Turbo Strike is pretty much a deal breaker. If Tom can continue using that turn after turn, he's got a Mars. He's going to be able to draw 2 cards and randomly discard a card from Thomas's hand. He is going to be grabbing the Giant Hearth. Not the worst card for Thomas to lose, but also a good one for Nick to hit, because the more stadiums he's able to remove from Thomas's hand, and the more stadiums he's going to be able to remove from Thomas's deck, the more chances that a Power Plant is able to stick. And I think that could be Nick's endgame strategy. I mean, we do see Thomas just going for the Mewtwo. I mean, that is going to be his main attacker in this deck. Mewtwo has all of the options. He's got Cross Division. He's got Turbo Strike. It's got to be Mewtwo. And in order for Thomas to win, he's going to have to keep some energy on that Mewtwo and keep it healthy and attacking throughout the game. We see Nick going in with a resource management now in 30 minutes. Single game 30 minutes. Pidgeotto players have to play very quickly and very efficiently because it is no easy task to deck out the opponent in just 30 minutes. A lot of these games are going to go to time. Nick Baker did play Pidgeotto along with Brady Botner. They both played Pidgeotto at this event, so I did take a peek out into the lobby. There are lots of matches going to time at this league challenge tonight, which is not something that you typically see at a league challenge. 30 minutes is usually enough time for 30-minute games to complete. But when there are multiple stall decks in the room, multiple control decks in the room, that's not always the case. We see Thomas grabbing a Mega Lopunny and Jigglypuff, Tag Team GX, Tag Call, discarding it with the Giant Hearth. Digging some more fire energies out of the deck. Loading up the Mewtwo. The Mewtwo's got the rainbow on it. Nick's Crushing Hammer was not effective last turn, so Thomas still on track and could theoretically cross-divide this turn, which would completely decimate Nick's board. And we see Nick only building up 2 Pidgeottos. I don't know if that's out of choice or he just doesn't have any more Pidgeys, but 2 Pidgeottos does not give Thomas the option to KO 3 with cross division. So even though Thomas could get a cross division for 2 prizes, the real dream is to get cross division for 3. And it looks like Thomas does not have the switch yet. So he's going into his deck with Cherish Ball. He was very fortunate so far. He's gotten the turn 1 Welder, the turn 2 Welder. He's got a Mewtwo and Mew Tag Team GX loaded up with energy. He's got all the energy he needs to use that Cross Division GX. He just does not have the switch. So we see him grabbing that Rainbow Rare Dedenne GX out of the deck, and he's going to be able to Dede change and dig 6 cards deeper, looking for the switch. Now Nick, like I said, only 2 Pidgeottos in play. Could bounce back from a cross division. Absolutely. If Thomas launches cross division GX this turn, takes out, well, he's actually going to wait. So Nick is going to start using Airmail, and I wonder if Nick will bench another Pidgey. I suspect that Nick will not bench another Pidgey until Thomas uses Cross Division GX. And the reason I'm saying that is because it seems like Nick only wants to give up 2 prizes with Cross Division and then will Cold Crush GX the Mewtwo. And it looks like Nick is just going to go in and use the Belba and Bryson Man this turn, milling both players 3 cards. And then we'll just resource management again to throw valuable cards into the bottom of the deck. And I think that Nick is intentionally waiting on setting up more Pidgeottos because, like I said, he doesn't want to lose that 3rd prize. And I think it'd be a very strong play from Nick if he could maybe cross division or maybe use the Cold Crush GX on the same turn that Thomas uses cross division the turn after, and then set up a couple more Pidgeys as soon as that happens. I mean, that would be a really big swing play that would give Nick the potential to survive it. Here it goes. Thomas has got all the energy he needs. He's got his abilities able to be used. He's got an extra fire energy he's attaching to his bench Charizard and Breaks and GX, and this is going to be a cross division for 2 prizes, knocking out both of Nick's Pidgeottos, and probably then dealing 8 damage counters to one of these Orangaroos, which feels a little bit irrelevant, but that is what we got. And Thomas will scoop up 2 prizes. Can Nick play out of this without any Pidgeottos set up? He's got a Jirachi, uses Acrobike. He's got at least 1 Pidgeotto in his hand. I don't think that he quite has anything. This is devastating. He's already looking at his resource management. No, Nick does not have that crazy play in his hand. He's got nothing. Nick really at a loss here with Justin Oranguru active, unable to remove any of the fire energies from this Mewtwo, and Mew unable to find any power plants, and things are going to get out of hand very quickly. I think if Thomas has a Naganadel GX, might be time to use that. You hate to discard energy from your own Mewtwo, but I feel like using Naganadel GX to knock out the Jirachi might give, might make it harder for Nick to be able to win this game. Thomas still does have to take 4 prizes. He can knock out the active with the Charizard GX. Has a very vanilla attack that just does like 130 damage, and does get a Stellar Wish. So Nick will have an opportunity to potentially find an Elms. And he's got a gear. So the 5th card, the top 4 cards of that Stellar Wish were dead. The 5th card, a gear. So now he can dig 7 cards deeper looking for the Professor Elms lecture. If he finds the lecture, he will be able to go get those Pidgeys at least that already were KO'd. There's Belba, Mars. Belba and Mars, and he's got to take the Mars. That is not the supporter that he wanted off of that Pokegear. He desperately wants an Elms right now, but Mars will have to suffice. I mean, I guess you could theoretically Mars into 2 Pidgeys, but Nick is certainly on the ropes right now. He's got a Pidgeotto in his hands, which is not so bad. He's got a lot of things in his hand, none of which are going to be able to help him right now. He needs to be able to cold crush this Mewtwo and buy himself some time. And with Thomas only having 3 prizes remaining, if that Articuno GX were to go down, that would basically be game. But each prize matters. Each prize makes a big difference. Nick using Mars after the reset stamp, taking a card out of Thomas's hand. He's got another Acro Bike. He finds a Pidgey, which he looks like he's discarding. It's a tough discard for him. He's got a Rainbow Energy because he can Cold Crush. So he selected the Rainbow. This could be it. He could go in with the Cold Crush GX. Articuno GX. That's a hard discard for Nick. Choosing the Rainbow over the Pidgey. But that Mewtwo now has no energy on it. Cold Crush GX coming in during the final hour for Nick. Under a board state with no Pidgeottos. Absolutely insane. Nick hanging on to this game, limiting Thomas to a couple card hand, and he has got Chip Ice Axe. He can retreat the Articuno with the escape board, and now it is his time to shine. If he can just get set up, he's got Hapu. He can use Hapu to dig for some Pidgeys and start to stabilize this board. The Cold Crush GX was absolutely what Nick needed to keep this game alive. Stop that Mewtwo from attacking. Thomas does have a Fire Energy for the active Mewtwo. And we see Nick playing very fast. He finds 1 Pidgey. It's really all he wants. And potentially a Power Plant. Can't see the other cards in the hand. Power Plant also seems like a good grab here. And I think those are the 2 he picked. I think it's Pidgey Power Plant. Power Plant could stop this Mewtwo. Well, I mean, Thomas does have the Marshadow, but forcing Thomas to use the Marshadow also very good, because that means that maybe Nick will be able to stick Thomas with a potential Power Plant coming down the line. Thomas is using Cherish Ball And he's got the Dene GX out of the deck. We'll see. Hopefully he remembers to bump the Stadium with Marshadow before he goes in with that day-to-day change. He is set and ready to go. Otherwise, he's got the Marshadow. Great play here from Thomas, bumping the power plants and can day-to-day change to refill his hand. Now Nick definitely under some pressure. If Thomas can get the Turbo Strike Solgaleo GX into the discard pile, he's going to be able to Turbo Strike, accelerate some energy, some of that lost energy from the discard pile to his bench. Charizard and breaks in. And I'm assuming that at this point he just wants to accelerate to the Charizard and breaks in and not really worry about benching another Mewtwo. I think that the Charizard and breaks in is just, a big liability on the bench, and Thomas kind of has to accelerate to it just so that it doesn't get gusted up and stalled out. The Dedenis, they got a retreat of 1. They're not as much of a liability as the Charizard and breaks in. It looks like Thomas is just getting the Greninja GX out of his deck. And maybe that will be a card that... Oh! It looks like Tom does not have a 2-energy attacker in the discard pile, and Tom just has to pass. This is a huge swing turn for Nick. Tom does not have Solgaleo GX in the discard pile. He got the Greninja off of the search there, but can't get it into the discard pile. He's prized his Solgaleo GX, so he cannot Turbo Strike. Solgaleo GX is in the final 3 prizes for Tom. And we see Nick playing very quickly. He's got a Professor Elm's Lecture and can set up, grabbing himself Pidgey and Ditto Prism Star. And at this point, Nick knows he can win. He just needs to play quickly. He needs to get to the bottom of his deck. He had a really tough time getting here to this point in the match with the Cross Division GX, the dead draws at the beginning. Tate and Liza in his hand now, and he will pass it back to Thomas to see what he does. Still no power plant. I know Nick at this point just wants to draw as many cards as possible. And now Thomas has got the Greninja GX in the discard pile with the Giant Hearth. So he can actually attack now for 2 energy, but it's not nearly as good as using Turbo Strike because he's not going to be bringing energy back from the discard pile. He desperately needs to get that Solgaleo GX off the prizes. And it looks like he's going to be copying Greninja GX Misslash. Knocking out Jirachi. Nick will send up Oranguru. And Tom has game. Not game. I mean, the... not game, but if he can knock out that Articuno GX, then he will have game. So he's got a potential way to win the game if Nick does not do anything about it. And Nick is going to use Crushing Hammer, removing Rainbow Energy from the Mewtwo and Mew. That's a big hammer flip there. Nick would love to have a reset stamp as well to limit Thomas's hand back down. It looks like Nick is scanning his discard pile, trying to decide on what to get. He does have the reset stamp. He can limit Thomas's hand. And he can, I believe, Chip and Jesse James this turn to completely remove Thomas's hand. However, Tom can still take a knockout this next turn on the active Oranguru. Just using, I guess, maybe not because he needs the Rainbow Energy to use the attack. So he's going to Jesse and James. I believe he's going to Jesse and James. Well, he showed the Jesse and James. I don't believe he's playing it. Now he's using resource management. It looks like Nick might have started to talk about using resource management, but Tom was like, hey, you don't have an energy on that thing. And it looks like they're being good sports about it. And Nick is able to attach the energy and use that resource management to throw 3 cards onto the bottom of the deck. Tom has got 3 cards in hand now, so Nick did not use Jesse and James last turn. But he's got Great Catcher to bring up the Articuno. I don't think he's got somebody to copy that could deal any damage, though. With just a fire and a colorless, Tom has to pass. I think Tom potentially should have waited on that. That being said, I understand why he didn't. He wanted to use the Great Catcher while it was in hand before his hand gets removed. He knows that Nick has Jesse and James. But at this point, Nick is locking things up. He's got the power plant. He's got the chip. Tom has no hand left. So now Nick gets to control Tom's top deck every single turn. And Nick has the Tate and Liza to throw the Articuno back onto the bench. And this is the lock. The lock is up now after much drama. Nick finally has the lock, the plant, everything. Tom has a 0-card hand. Tom actually discarded his own hand with the Great Catcher, which is part of why I was like so worried about him playing that, because the Great Catcher, I mean, I get why we play it, because it's like, okay, you know that Nick's probably about to remove your hand anyway, but it's definitely just felt bad. He almost had game. If Tom just had one more energy or one attacker that he could use to copy something, he had part of the combo, but not everything. And now Nick is coming back from the brink of disaster in this game, setting up the lock. And he's got complete control over this match from this point on. And Tom is just hoping that either time gets called, or maybe that Nick uses chip into 3 things that are all good. Nick hastily airmailing through his deck. 3 Pidgeotto set up. Hard to believe there's 3 Pidgeotto set up, because 2 of them got cross-divided. And now Nick is going to Jesse and James Tom again, removing 2 cards, and we'll use chip, and we'll undoubtedly give Tom the dead card there. Yeah, the deck does get shuffled. And then Nick going to resource manage the Tate and Liza, Chip, Ice Axe, and Acro Bike into the bottom of his deck. He just wants to be able to draw through as much as he can. And thank you so much, AAB22, gifting 10 subs to the channel. Let's get some hype going in the chat. Thank you so much, AAB22, for the love and generosity. Yes, Merry Christmas to you as well. Thank you so much. Couldn't be a better time right here. The climax of this game. We got some hype going in the chat, some subs, new subs to the channel. Thank you so much, AAB22. And hopefully you're having a great night and enjoying the stream. Thank you. It looks like Nick chipping again, choosing the top deck for Tom. And he's going to start to get that Belba and Bryson Man combo down so that he can just use Belba and Bryson Man turn after turn and really get this mill thing going quickly. With power plant up, Thomas is not going to be able to attack. This is the power plant that matters. We saw Tom lost a Giant Hearth early. Nick forced Thomas to use that Mars Shadow. And now Nick finally got that power plant to stick, stripping away Thomas's hand. And it seems like the end is basically inevitable at this point. Nick pal-patting some cards back into the deck is going to surge. Mars, Faba, and then resource management. Chip. Oh my gosh, I mean, so many game actions happening here, and Nick knows them all like the back of his hand. He knows exactly what he needs to do in order to close this one out. And it looks like Nick has got this game. Tom is looking at that Solgaleo GX in the prizes. Nick is going to win via deck out with Pidgeotto Control. He's got his Bellbud Bryson Mans there. Nick coming back from the brink of disaster and pulling that game out with Pidgeotto Control to advance to 3-0. The Full Grip Games League Challenge. We're going to get Nick back here to talk Pidgey in just a moment. So hang tight and we will be right back. The fourth round of the Full Grip Games League Challenge. We got Alexander Holtz on the left versus Caleb Remy on the right. These guys are both playing Gardevoir and Sylveon Tag Team GX. This is a Gardy Sylveon mirror, which should be pretty interesting. If they are both playing the regional winning Drew Kate list, then this is going to be definitely a close match, I would say, because if it's a 60-card mirror, then it's going to come down to maybe who draws better or who navigates their plays the best. I think that a lot of times in the Gardy Sylveon mirror, pulling off that magical miracle GX can be decisive. Eliminating your opponent's hand completely can give you the upper hand, making it so that there is no healing shenanigans going on, and really snowball into some game-winning plays. So I do expect to see both players trying to lean on that magical miracle GX. I think that Omastar is probably not something that we're going to see come into effect here if these players are playing Omastar. I think that Alex Holtz is running the Omastar in his version. This does appear to be Drew Kate's list that Alex is rocking. Caleb, I think, may have a little bit of a different version of the deck that he is working with. Let me check his list real quick. Well, he also has the Omastar in his version. He does play a Wondrous Labyrinth and Great Potions, though. So that is quite the difference. Caleb is playing Great Potions. Alex Holtz is not. We're going to see if those Great Potions make a difference for Caleb. Caleb also is running 2 copies of Mallow and Lana, and it looks like Alexander Holtz is only running 1. Alex Holtz also has the Lugia GX in his version of the list right now, and Caleb Remy is not running Lugia GX. Neither player is playing the Xerneas GX, so no plays from the X-Man in this match. Should just be Gardevoir and Sylveon just slugging big Kaleidostorms back and forth, trying to build up a quick Magical Miracle GX. We could see maybe instead of a quick Kaleidostorm, just a couple of Fairy Songs in and then a big Magical Miracle GX. Looks like Alex is going first and plays Coach Trainer turn 1. Just going to get a draw of 4. So good start for Alex, assuming that he's got a backup Gardevoir and Sylveon for his bench. He doesn't need it quite yet, but there it is. So he is established and ready to go. He's got another Fairy Energy in his hand as well as a Cynthia and Caitlyn, so he can just continue churning through the deck with Coach Trainer and Cynthia and Caitlyn to really set up some big plays. And it looks like he's considering benching the Unidentified Fossil, and I don't think that that's a bad bench. I think that the Unidentified Fossil, if anything, could be a great point of pivot for Alex. And it looks like Alex also just has the Omastar in his hand as well. So maybe Alex does set up the Omastar just in case he can set it up efficiently. It's almost like you might as well have it set up if it comes to you. You know, why not? I don't think that it can hurt. That's for sure. I don't think that Caleb will necessarily play into the item lock, considering that both decks only need 2 Gardevoir and Sylveon out at any given point in time. I do not expect to see Caleb play into it. But if Alex can play the cards out of his hand, I think he absolutely should. Giving up the 1 prize to the Unidentified Fossil, if it does happen to get knocked out, will have no impact on the prize trade of this game, since both decks utilize Tag Team Pokemon GX. In fact, this should be one of the easiest matches that I have ever had to run the switcher for, since pretty much Gardevoir and Sylveon will just be up there the entire match. This is just going to be a match where we just see a lot of Gardevoir and Sylveon action, that's for sure. Caleb Remy is going to play a Pokegear 3.0, finds the Cynthia and Caitlyn. Nice draw card there for him, so he can start to chug through this deck. He's got a Fairy Charm going into the discard pile and finds himself a Pokegear tag switch and 1 other card off the Cynthia and Caitlyn. And then is going to Fairy Song, accelerating 2 energy onto the bench Gardevoir and Sylveon. Now, it'll be interesting to see if Caleb decides to go in for a quick Kaleidostorm, or if he would rather try to Fairy Song a couple of times to build up a big Magical Miracle. Now, Alex Holtz did play this deck to a deep tournament run at the Knoxville Regional Championships. He did very well with the deck and apparently beat many Charizard decks with Gardevoir and Sylveon in Knoxville. So Alex Holtz, no stranger to this deck on the regional level, and has a lot of experience playing it. So I do expect to see him pilot this deck exceptionally well. He's got a Greens Exploration in his hand, and we'll see what he chooses here. It's kind of an odd turn to Greens. Like, he doesn't really need anything. He just needs to prepare his hand going forward. There is no card that he needs to instant slam down and play this turn. So it might be one of those weird turns where he just greens for another greens. I think this turn from Alex, I may have just used the Cynthia and Caitlyn to draw 3 cards and get the Coach Trainer back into my hand. I kind of like that because Coach Trainer is just one of those cards that's so good to see off of, Magical Miracle. If your opponent uses Magical Miracle on you, then Coach Trainer is the card you want to see on the top of your deck. If you get Reset stamped to low, Coach Trainer is a card that you probably want to see in the mix as well. It looks like Alex is just going to use greens for a tag call and greens. It's kind of interesting, and I'm curious to see what he decides he wants off of this. Tag call can get him a tag team Pokemon. He might just go grab another Pokemon and is maybe trying to set up his Omastar. I doubt that, though. It looks like he's just opting for 2 supporters. He's got Mallow and Lana and a Cynthia and Caitlyn. So getting himself the Mallow and Lana will be good so that he can glance off a hit. And I think that we're just going to see him accelerate. So that's fine. And maybe he decides to accelerate for multiple turns in a row. The first person to use Magical Miracle GX should be at an advantage. However, you can always draw out a Magical Miracle GX. I've seen it happen before. It's just a supporter rip right off the top. I mean, the deck is pretty live. It's got a lot of very good search cards in it. Tag Call off of Magical Miracle is and out to a Cynthia and Caitlin, you can get yourself a Guardy Sylveon and a Cynthia and Caitlin, discard the Guardy Sylveon. You could just draw 3 cards there. Any sort of greens, any sort of coach trainer, all of that. It's all live. A lot of live cards that you can find off of a Magical Miracle Shuffle in. And it looks like Caleb Remy is going for this turn 2 Kaleidostorm. And it's going to take a bite out of Alex's Guardy Sylveon, also using Tag Call himself to search for a couple tag team cards out of the deck. Alex has that Mallow and Lana already in his hand, though, ready to go. So he does have a good healing option ahead. And it looks like Caleb is going to use greens, grab himself a Great Potion and a Tag Call preemptively. And it looks like Caleb is also prepping his hand for a Kaleidostorm. Just saying, okay, if you use Kaleidostorm, I'm going to fully heal it off. I've already got the cards in my hand to heal it off. And he's kind of pre-prepped for that. Looks like Caleb's going to use Kaleidostorm. I wonder where he's going to move his energy, if at all. I think he'll move 1 onto the bench. That is a pretty typical play with Guardy Sylveon, just to match your energy 2 and 2, just in case of anything crazy like a Lugia GX coming in and using Lost Purge or something like that. Alex now has to make the choice. Is he going to Fairy Song, or is he going to aggress? Is he going to bother healing this Guardian Sylveon with Mallow and Lana, or is he going to sack it and let it go while using Fairy Song to accelerate more energy and maybe go for a Magical Miracle? Alex considering his hand, eyeing up the greens, looking at it. It's tough. You really don't want to waste Mallow and Lana on this Guardy Sylveon that is not attacking. So maybe Alex just sacks the Guardy Sylveon and starts to really hammer away with Magical Miracle and tries to keep pace that way. Looks like Alex is just going to get double Energy Spinner. And he's going to get 1 to manually attach, keeping the other Energy Spinner in his hand. And I think that Alex already knows that Caleb's hand is filled with healing cards, right? So it makes sense that he would not swing in with Kaleidostorm. He's like, okay, I know you got the Great Potions. I know you got the Tag Call already. Looks like Alex will maybe Fairy Song with a fresh Guardy Sylveon, which is interesting. So he would force Caleb to potentially use, maybe not, a Pump Fake. I thought maybe we were going in with a fresh Guardy Sylveon. But it looks like Alex maybe just using Kaleidostorm and moving all that energy to the benched Guardy Sylveon. Now, this is a cool play. I kind of like this. Saying, okay, if you want to waste one of your gusts, bringing up my bench Guardy Sylveon with all of the energy on it, be my guest. Alex also saying, okay, if you swing into my active, it has no energy on it. All I need to do is Mallow and Lana and swing in with Magical Miracle. While Caleb this turn is going to use Tag Call and grab some Mallow and Lanas out of his deck. He's planning on healing off all of this damage on his active Guardy Sylveon. And then it's going to be up to Alex to kind of decide where this match goes, since Alex is poised to get the first Magical Miracle GX. And you could tell he was prioritizing it. He was using Green's Exploration to search for energy. And can expect to see Caleb heal this turn. swinging with a fresh Guardy Sylveon. And it's weird because Alex is not going to get the knockout with his GX attack. He'll just have to swing in, but he will negate all of those healing cards from Caleb's hand and put a lot of pressure on. But Caleb actually is just going to go with the reset stamp. And it's crazy to see sometimes a reset stamp to 6 can really mess with your opponent's strategy because they've been building up, hand selecting the cards in their hand turn after turn. That's something Alex has been doing. Alex has been using Green's Exploration almost every turn this game, and he doesn't really have a lot of greens left in the deck, I don't think, because he's used, I think, 2 or 3. So Alex could get stuck in a really suboptimal hand off of this reset stamp, just with 6 cards he didn't want. It looks like Caleb will use the Mallow and Lana. And also the Great Potion in his hand. And then he's going to heal off all of that damage, use Kaleidostorm, put some pressure on Alex. Now the ball's back in Alex's court. What's Pidgey doing there? That should be a Gardevoir and Sylveon. not a Pidgeotto. There we go. Now, Alex, if Alex had Fairy Energy and Guardy Sylveon, this would be a very straightforward play from him, but it looks like he does not. Thank you so much, Jay Stewart, 0325 with a Twitch Prime sub. Thank you so much for subbing to the channel. Welcome. And thank you, Diesel Pozo, if you helped him out. I appreciate that. Looks like Alex is going to chase down the Guardy Sylveon with the energy on it, using Great Catcher, discarding Power Plant, and Faba, knowing that the Faba will probably not be of much use. And welcome, Jay Stewart. Thank you so much for using your Twitch Prime sub on Tricky Jim. I think he's got the switch. And Alex does have a Coach Trainer in his hand. But not much else. Did he play a supporter this turn? I don't know if I saw a supporter come down. It looks like he's just going to be swinging in with Kaleidostorm. So this is a weird situation for Alex to be in. All his energy on the active. Some heavily damaged Guardy Sylveons. Oh, he did play Coach Trainer. Thank you, Pixel. I missed that. I was digging through my image dump when he played Coach. So he coached into another coach. Caleb's going to use Adventure Bag, get a couple of Fairy Charms out of the deck. And Alex, looking at his hand, does not have a Mallow and Lana, does not have a Tag Call, doesn't even have a Fairy Energy. So he is dry right now. That reset stamp from Caleb was huge. Really hit Alex hard because Alex had everything he needed in that hand to seal this game up. But now Alex can't even find the 6th energy, and Caleb could have an opportunity to skip ahead. Caleb does not use greens, or does not use the Mallow and Lana this turn, though. So he puts Alex in a situation where Alex could theoretically take the knockout this next turn. But we see Caleb hastily moving all the energy to his benched Gardevoir and Sylveon, dealing 150 damage. Wants to protect that energy at all cost. Alex has got another Coach Trainer. It's really all he has. And now Alex in a weird situation where he cannot really afford to GX. Because if he GXs, then he loses all this energy. So he desperately needs to move his energy somewhere else. And even though Alex will be the first one taking a knockout, it doesn't feel like he's ahead. He does not have a clean benched Guardy Sylveon at this point. But he does have custom catchers. So he can target down Caleb's 4 energy Guardy Sylveon and put some pressure on that way. But he does not have a way to heal off his Guardy Sylveon. So he may have to move the energy to one of his damaged Guardies, which just feels bad. However, that might be the situation that Caleb finds himself in this next turn. Oof. Caleb just draws into 2 Great Potions, though. These Great Potions are going to be gnarly for Alex to deal with. Double Great Potion just means that one of these attacks just gets almost completely erased. Just so insane. And you almost just love to see a Lost Purge from Alex as well. Certainly possible with the way that Caleb's board is set up right now. Alex does play the Lugia GX. Lost Purge GX is an option. And Alex is going to move all of his energy to the bench Guardy Sylveon. Both bench Guardy Sylveons with Kaleidostorm. And now there is a ton of damage on this board. Caleb going in with the double Great Potion, though. Absolutely massive there. And he's got a Greens Exploration to get the 3rd Great Potion and a Mallow and Lana. Caleb just plays far more healing than Alex does, making this a real uphill battle for Alex. Now I wonder, Caleb taking this knockout could open the door for Alex to skip ahead if Caleb keeps all 4 energy on the active Guardy Sylveon. Alex could get his Lugia GX and potentially Lost Purge GX, which would just remove all of Caleb's energy from play. And I'm wondering if Caleb will decide to move his energy to the damaged Guardy Sylveon on the bench, or if he will keep it all on the active, assuming that the active is more safe. I think we'll have to see. But if he leaves all that energy on the active, Alex could potentially play for a tag switch Lost Purge play with his Lugia GX. Lost Purge doesn't take any prizes, though, which certainly feels bad. It looks like Caleb is using Great Catcher. Yeah, he needs to discard one more card. I can't just discard the one. So Caleb carefully choosing what his next card is going to be off the discard here. Having a tough choice. There's 3 supporters: Mallow, Lana, Greens, or Cynthia and Caitlin. I think I like Caleb's decision there to get rid of the Greens. Keeping the Mallow and Lana feels good. His hand is small, though, so he may not be able to use Mallow and Lana next turn. And it looks like he's going to throw 1 energy back and take 3 prizes with his Guardy Sylveon, leaving Alex with only 3 energy remaining. Both Guardy Sylveon critically damaged, putting him in a rough spot. He's got to promote his Guardy Sylveon with the energy. And at this point, Alex going to have a tough time fighting this one back. He's only got 1 Mallow and Lana in the deck. That is just not a lot of healing. And his supporter of choice this turn is Cynthia and Caitlin. That's not going to heal. So you have to wonder, where does Alex go from here? How does he not lose this game? Caleb just maintaining so much momentum with the Great Potions turn after turn, giving him so much healing. I believe Alex found the Mallow and Lana. But at this point, if Caleb just swings again, it's going to be game over. And I don't think that Alex has any way to prevent Caleb from taking this knockout. He's got the stamp. Can he bring up the bench Guardy Sylveon? I think Alex might be out of options. I think I would have liked to, potentially see the unidentified fossil promotion from Alex this turn. Even though it can't retreat, you can just discard it if you want to. So I think I would have liked to have seen that. It looks like Alex is going to retreat this turn, but, I mean, how could he possibly come back from this? And Caleb's just going to greens. This is going to be it. If he's got a great catcher in the deck, he could just finish it off. I don't think he has it, though. He does not have a gust effect. Wow. Caleb has no gust left in deck. So he has to get Energy Spinner and something else. But at this point, I mean, Caleb has no gust left in deck. So at this point, Caleb is just going to be hitting into whatever's the active, including this unidentified fossil. However, I feel like Alex just has so much damage on board. I mean, it's really, really wild. I'm not sure, and no energy at this point either. He sends up the fresh Guardy Sylveon. He has to. He's going to stamp Caleb again to 2. Alex has not taken a prize yet. I mean, his board is demolished. If Alex could pull out a win in this game, it would quite literally be a miracle. I don't think it's possible. I really don't think it's possible. Alex just does not have the healing in his deck that Caleb has. Caleb with the 4 Great Potion, the 2 Mallow and Lana, is just so far ahead on attacks that, and that is evident. I mean, we could see it in the board state. We could see it turn after turn. Alex swings and Caleb just denies the damage with Great Potion. Alex going to grab Tag Call, an Energy Spinner. He's got an Energy Spinner. He can use his Guardy Sylveon to accelerate, I think, only 1 energy from deck onto his benched guy. But at this point, there's just so... I mean, Alex's resources are just tapped. I think he's out of... He's got to get the Mallow and Lana. He's got to get the Cynthia and Caitlyn. The only way that he even almost has a chance, I feel like, is like next turn he has to accelerate onto a damaged Gardevoir and Sylveon. And then he has to, switch and then Mallow and Lana and then switch again or something? Like, I don't think that he can possibly maneuver as much as he needs to in order to keep a clean attacker. I think, Alex would need to have Mallow and Lana and switch next turn and tag switch in order to attack with a clean Guardy Sylveon. And even if he does attack with a clean Guardy Sylveon, the benched one will just clean him up at the end of the game. Which just feels really gnarly. Looks like Alex is using Cynthia and Caitlyn. So maybe he is looking to try and get a Lugia GX play this turn with 2 tag switch and a switch and maybe Lost Purge this thing. And then Alex has a theoretical way out of this, I guess. If he Lost Purges the active and then knocks out the bench, but what Alex doesn't know is that Caleb does actually... Alex just discarding the Mallow and Lana off the Cynthia and Caitlyn, showing, hey, I ain't even going to use this card. And he has the tag switch in his hand, so I think he was going for the Lugia GX play. He had to. But I think Caleb had a backup Guardy Sylveon in his hand that he might have been able to drop into play and move his energy to. And it looks like there's the Lugia GX Alex was looking for, and I don't think that he is going to be able to pull this one in. He has certainly fought hard. He has done all the game actions he could to try and save this match from going downhill, but I think this is it. And he's scooping it up. That's it. Alex Holtz losing to Caleb Remy, the Gardevoir Sylveon Mirror. Caleb Remy advancing victorious into the next round. A close game. The healing in Caleb's deck, just too much in this Gardevoir and Sylveon Mirror. Those great potions proving to be extremely potent in this tight matchup between fairy decks. Excellent stuff. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with the 5th and final round of the Full Grip Games League Challenge in just a moment. Thank you all so much for being here. We'll be right back. Now we got Caleb here. Just won, you're round 4, so you're 3-0-1?
Yeah.
Excellent stuff, Caleb. Guardy Sylveon, how's the deck treating you?
I think it's pretty fun, but, I swear it's only League Challenges that it does well. Ever.
It looks like it was doing real well there. I mean, set up consistently. Now, we saw you're still playing the Great Potions. How did you feel about those in that matchup?
It's just all about healing. If you're going to play big decks like Guardian anymore, it's all about healing.
For sure. And we saw you just glance off those hits left and right. I mean, Alex was not able to stick any damage against you, so that was really strong. Were you ever worried in that match about Alex building up a magical miracle play?
Yeah, that's why I stamped him when he had the energy spinner, so I know the odds of him hitting that. And, when he spread the energy all around, I just great catcher, and I knew I had advantage when he had all the energy gone.
For sure. I felt like Alex had it seemed like he was building up an advantage board state earlier, but that reset stamp was definitely the turning point in the match. You reset stamped him into a couple coach trainers, no Mallow and Lana, no tag call, no healing, and you were really able to take control of the match there. So that was a great play and a great read on his hand. His hand was very good before the reset stamp, so that was really cool. Now, are you excited about Sword and Shield at all?
I'm excited. I'm ready to play Giratina Malamar when that set comes out.
Oh yeah? Why are you excited about Giratina
Balls,
Malamar?
The Evolution Incense.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a lot more fun.
Awesome. Well, good stuff, Caleb. Congrats on the win, and good luck in your final round. Getting ready for the 5th and final round of the Full Group Games League Challenge. We've got Andrew Barlow on the left versus Frank Persick on the right. These players are both 3-1, I believe, and vying for a spot in the top 4 of this league challenge here at Full Grip Games. We have got quite the payout for this league challenge with $90 store credit going to first place, $60 store credit going to second, and $30 store credit going to both third and fourth place. So thank you guys all so much, and everybody here who is here in attendance coming out to the league challenge tonight. And the attendance does affect the prize payout, so excellent stuff. And thank you all for the viewership this evening, and big shout out to Full Grip Games for hosting the event. Make sure to check out fullgripgames.com, of course, for all your trading card game singles, as well as fullgripcodes.com for PTCGO code instant delivery. This is going to be an exciting final match here. We've got Lucario and Melmetal GX versus Garchomp and Giratina GX. Now, I think that Garchomp and Giratina GX is favored in this matchup. Both decks are pretty control-oriented. They will try to, in the case of Garchomp and Giratina, you're going to try and control how many prizes your opponent has and then use attacks like GG End to completely remove threats from the opponent's side of the board. Andrew Barlow is going to try and remove energy from Garchomp and Giratina with Full Metal Wall GX, and then potentially set up a Omastar on the bench, maybe lock up items as well. A lot of cool plays that can happen in this matchup, but Frank could definitely get the jump on Barlow if he is able to go use a couple of his Magius and then get a quick Calamitous Slash knockout, GGN, something else. I mean, it can get overwhelming pretty quickly for the Lucario and Melmetal deck, which is just not quite as able to control the board state as Garchomp and Giratina. I think that Full Metal Wall GX definitely going to be something to look out for. Full Metal Wall GX can reduce the damage dealt by Frank's deck by 30, and then Frying Pan even 30 more. So Andrew Barlow can make it so that Frank's linear attack literally does nothing, which would be pretty cool to see. So I hope that we get to see a Full Metal Wall GX Frying Pan combo and all of that. Now, Lucario Melmetal GX, good at reducing damage dealt to it, but Frank does have a way around that with, of course, the GGN GX, right? So if Frank comes up against a target that he cannot really handle, he'll just GG end it and get rid of it that way. We see Barlow going in with some tag calls to start this game off, and just expect to see him grab some Cynthia and Caitlyn's, Mallow and Lana's, some Pokemon out of the deck. And that's one of my favorite things about the tag call card, is that it really not only is a good consistency card, it also helps to thin the deck by searching out 2 cards from the deck. It makes it so that you just have these good cards in your hand, so that a card like Cynthia and Caitlyn, even though Cynthia and Caitlyn only draws 3 cards, you did already suck some of the good cards out of your deck. So when you play Cynthia and Caitlyn, you're more likely to get live cards that you want because you have already used Tag Call to thin your deck of other tag supporters and tag team Pokemon. So you just get to find, the good cards that you couldn't select with the Tag Call. And I really like that interaction there. We'll see if Andrew Barlow's got an energy. He's got a metal in his hand going down turn 1, and he'll have the opportunity to use a turn 2 Full Metal Wall GX. But the question is, does he want to use a turn 2 Full Metal Wall GX, or does he want to wait until later in the game when there is a Garchomp and Giratina built up that maybe he cannot deal with? Both options are valid. And I think a quick Full Metal Wall GX will make it so that the linear attack damage does not add up. And it's one of the reasons I really like that Frying Pan making its way down onto the Lucario Melmetal very quickly. Because reducing 30 will mean that the linear attack only does 10 damage, and then followed up by a Calamitous Slash will not be a knockout, because 240, really only 210 after the damage reduction from the Frying Pan. I think Andrew Barlow is in the clear for at least a couple of turns thanks to that Frying Pan. Frank has got Tag Call himself. I'm just going to search out a Garchomp and Giratina Tag Team GX. And then contemplating the second card. Expect to usually see a Cynthia and Caitlyn or something like that to just give some draw to the deck as well. Unless Frank has already got a draw supporter in his hand, in which case he may just go for 2 Pokemon. But I think Cynthia and Caitlyn is a good bet. He does have a Pokegear, but I think Cynthia and Caitlyn is just the safe card to grab, just in case he whiffs off of the Pokegear. And I think we do expect him to see that. He's already got a Garchomp and Giratina in the active position. 1 more for the bench is cool. You don't ever really need 3 Garchomp and Giratina in play. It looks like Frank will opt for the Guzma and Hala instead. He checked his hand, wanted to make sure that he could discard some cards before grabbing the Guzman Hala, and I think he's happy with that. Being able to nab the early rainbow energy can be very good, so Guzman Hala definitely an asset for this deck. And we see Frank was able to grip the Green's Exploration off of the Pokegear, so a great draw for him there. He can use greens to really set this deck up, get some Mismagius into play if he chooses to. Or set up more Mischievous for future turns. Now Frank, if you would like to use GGNGX on the second turn of the game, needs to get double Psychic attached to the Garchomp and Giratina. So he needs to go turn 1 Psychic, turn 2 Psychic. And then turn 2 also you have to blow up a Mischievous or a Mismagius, and you also have to have the Karate Belt attached to reduce the attack cost by a fighting energy. So we see Frank going for the energy spinner, and he will be able to get both psychics that he needs for a quick GG end with the energy spinner. So I like that. He can get 3 energy to the hand, which really helps him to be able to just map out his next couple of turns as far as energy attachments go. This Garchomp and Giratina deck only attaches 1 energy per turn and uses tool cards like Karate Belt and Counter Gain in order to come from behind once it forces you to take prizes with Mismagius' Mysterious Message. And it looks like Frank actually opting for the Surge and the Spinner off of this draw, and I wonder if he's already got the Mismagius in his hand. I didn't see it. I think Frank realizing he needs to go for double Psychic. Yes, you do, Frank. Good one. Yes, double Psychic is the route that gives you the most options with the Garchomp and Giratina deck, because you can still use, Calamitous Slash with Karate Belts. And yes, Frank does already have the Dust Stone in his hand. So he can, turn 2, really start to pop off. He can Surge, he can use Guzman Hala, and do everything that he needs to do. I do not expect to see Frank use the Mismagius on the first turn of the game. I do think I would like to see... I think I would have liked to see Frank attach that energy to the active there, but I guess he's attaching it to the bench because he does not want to get Full Metal Wall GX'd. And he is going to use the Mismagius this turn to put himself down a prize and give himself the option to use Linear Attack for just 10 damage or 40 to the bench. So he will select 40 to the bench. Lucario Melmetal. Barlow has got a Quick Welder for just 1 energy, top decks another, an energy spinner, and a switch. No incentive for him to use Full Metal Wall GX without a Gust. And I think with Barlow technically being up a prize, he is in danger of getting knocked out with a GGNGX. He's also in danger of getting his benched guy Calamitous slashed. So we can see the Garchomp and Giratina decks definitely putting forth a lot of pressure, which is hilarious that this deck can put forth that kind of pressure with only 1 energy in play, which is crazy. There's just a counter gain on the active, allowing that Garchomp and Giratina to use the Linear Attack, and then 1 Psychic Energy on the bench. But we're talking about how much pressure is being put on. And that is a lot of pressure. Really, Frank is only 1 energy attachment away from being able to completely remove any of Barlow's Pokemon from play. And he's only 1 energy attachment and a Gust away from knocking out that bench Lucario Melmetal this turn. And it looks like Barlow is just going to use the GX attack for no effect, making it so that both of his Pokemon are taking 30 less damage. So if Frank were to Gust up and try to KO the bench Lucario Melmetal, at this point it is taking 30 less damage because of the Full Metal Wall GX, and that will not be an option available to him. Also, linear attack does almost nothing at this point, and by almost nothing, I mean actually nothing. Unless he is using linear attack onto a Lucario Melmetal that does not have a frying pan attached to it, linear attack will no longer deal damage. We see Frank using Lieutenant Surge, then Green's Exploration getting him the reset stamp and the Karate Belts. We'll see which supporter he opts to use for his last one. Gotta like those grabs from Frank. And then probably like a Cynthia and Caitlyn or something like that. To maybe just put the greens back into his hand and draw 3 cards. Looks like he's going to poke a gear first. See if he finds anything else. He's got a Guzma and Hala. I think that's the second Guzma and Hala that he's got in his hand now. And supporter number 3 is looking like Cynthia and Caitlyn. Discarding a Guzma and Hala, I think that's fair. He's already got the tools that he needs in play. He doesn't need power plants. I mean, the Guzma and Hala is just kind of losing value as turns go by. And I like Frank's decision to discard it there. He's got a Mischievous for the bench, which is good. Nice little protection against reset stamp at the end of the game, since he's already used one, Miss Magius. He's got the Psychic and the Karate Belt, and a Switch. And he's going to be using GG End, I believe. And a reset stamp to 5. Just completely removing this 3 energy Lucario Melmetal from play. Frank has got the sauce this turn. That GG End, and I was talking about pressure. I mean, that is pressure right there. Frank only had 1 energy in turn. This is his second turn of the game. And he's got GG and GX to completely remove Andrew Barlow's Lucario and Melmetal Tag Team GX from play. Leaving Andrew Barlow with a 5-card hand off a reset stamp and an energy-less Lucario Melmetal with 40 damage on it. Now, Frank does not have a way to knock this Lucario Melmetal out next turn, but even just using Calamitous Slash will just put forth a ton of pressure. And since Frank didn't take a prize, I mean, he doesn't take any prizes using GGN, that actually plays into his favor because it allows him to continue using that Karate Belt. So what Frank's going to be able to do is he's going to be able to attach to his bench Garchomp Giratina using the Karate Belt to Calamitous Slash, the active Lucario Melmetal. And when he slams into that active Lucario Melmetal with Calamitous Slash, it's really just a matter of time. Frank is just building momentum at this point. That GGN GX early on just gives Frank the turns to be able to keep that momentum rolling. And since this is a deck that relies on using manual energy attachments to win games, every single turn is meaningful. You need to drop an energy to attach every single turn. That's why this deck plays multiple Guzma and Hala, because it is essential that you find the energy that you need to attach every single turn. Barlow eyeing up the card. I don't think Barlow actually has a bench Pokemon in his hand right now. He's got 2 supporters he's considering, though. He's got Cynthia and Caitlyn discarding a Green's Exploration to get a Welder back from the discard pile and finds, wow, what a horrible draw off that Cynthia and Caitlyn. Not a single energy, just 2 Pokegears. That is brutal. Going in with one of those Pokegears and finding nothing. He's got 1 more Pokegear in his hand. He's just drawing into these Pokegears. Not what he wants. He needs to find energy. We saw he ditched the Green's Exploration in his hand to go for a Welder. He would love to see some fire energy, but to be honest, there's only a handful of fire energy in the deck. The odds of him finding those off of a draw 3, not the highest. Sure enough, there's one. Does find greens again. He just discarded a greens, though, off of the Cynthia and Caitlin. So he's got one back into his hand now. But this is a feel bad. Andrew has just got a single fire energy that he can attach to his Lucario Melmetal. And that's going to be it. But he might just choose to sit on that too. He's got Welder in his hand. He might choose to Welder instead. However, at this point, Andrew is going to need to pivot into a different tag team Pokemon. If there's anything that Andrew has going for him, it's that, Frank actually has not taken a prize yet. But Frank's board position is way better. And that's why this Garchomp and Giratina deck is so potent. It just dominates the battle of a board position. It can completely checkmate decks by removing threats, setting up knockouts with linear attack, and finishing the deal with Calamitous Slash. It's a very powerful card. And who would have known that the best way to play it is by manually attaching energy? I would not have guessed that. Months ago when the card came out, I would have thought to myself that this was way too slow. But turn 2 GGN-GX, certainly possible in a deck that forces your opponent to take prize cards. Frank's got an energy drop going on to the bench, Garchomp and Giratina GX. And a green's coming down. So you can get any 2 trainer cards he wants out of his deck. It's looking like he might grab a Dust Stone. I think the Mysterious Treasure is the correct play since he does already have the Mischievous in play. He doesn't actually need to waste a Dust Stone. The Dust Stone could be useful later on if he decides that he needs to kind of whip up a Mismagius out of nowhere. And the Mysterious Treasure actually helps thin the deck as well by discarding a card he does not want out of his hand. We see him getting rid of the Garchomp and Giratina there, which is great just for deck thinning. Frank's going to evolve Mismagius and just going to ship it. So he'll fill his hand, 2 more cards? And I think at this point, Frank is trying to seal the deal by using the Mismagius to force Andrew Barlow into a lower hand size and saying, hey, if you don't find a benched Pokemon, I'm going to bench you out and win real quick with a couple of Calamitous Slashes. Frank knows that knocking out this Lucario Melmetal is going to be way easier than knocking out 2. So if he can limit Andrew Barlow's draw a little bit, maybe he'll be able to just win the game real quick if Andrew Barlow does not find another bench Pokemon. We'll see. Draw to 4, and Barlow does have another Lucario Melmetal and an energy and a green. So Andrew is going to be able to stabilize a little bit off of this. He's got a greens exploration, and I know Frank is not stoked to see that. And wondering if Barlow is going to be able to stabilize here. I feel like he needs a lot. He needs a frying pan for sure to put onto his benched Lucario Melmetal so that it does not get sniped with linear attack or anything like that. I mean, even just linear attack poking the Lucario Melmetal puts it in a situation where it's just getting hit with Calamitous Slash for so much damage. And we do see Andrew going for that frying pan. He kind of knows it. He knows that this benched Lucario Melmetal needs to be wearing a frying pan. That being said, at this point, it might just be too little too late. Like, Frank's going to take this knockout. And then what? We've got, Metal Energy, I guess. Next turn, Barlow can use greens, get himself Fiery Flint. And a Welder, he can Fiery Flint for a fire energy and at least use Steel Fist to accelerate an energy out of the deck. But Frank at this point has got 2 fully loaded Garchomp and Giratina tag teams. So his board is loaded. This is exactly what you want the endgame of a Garchomp Giratina deck to look like. 2 fully loaded up Garchomp Giratinas, both wearing their respective tools. This is it. And the crazy thing about these tools is like they're turned off this turn, right? But as soon as Andrew Barlow takes a knockout, if he's able to take a knockout, then the tools are turned back on because Andrew Barlow will be at 1 prize remaining and capable of getting a reset stamp to 1 as well, whereas Frank will just have 3 prizes remaining, so his karate belts and his counter gain will both be in effect. We see Andrew Barlow using that Green's Exploration. He's going to grab the Fiery Flint and I think maybe a reset stamp. And plans on using the reset stamp. Frank's got a pretty sizable hand, so he's going to shuffle that back in and say, hey, maybe you don't find an energy. Maybe you can't really attack this next turn. And Barlow will discard Mega Lopunny as well as the Omastar from his hand to get some fire energy out of the deck. It looks like he's got 4 to work with. That'll thin the deck nice as well. And Barlow kind of knows the deal at this point. He can attach a fire energy. Doesn't need Welder at all because he can accelerate to himself with Steel Fist. And if Frank doesn't find an energy off this 3-card hand, then he will not be able to attack. I mean, linear attack does not deal damage to this Lucario Melmetal. Now, Frank was able to find a tag call. He can get Guzma and Hala, guarantee himself the energy so that he can go in with a Calamitous Slash this turn. Even though the Lucario Melmetal does not have any damage on it, Calamitous Slash still deals a cool 100 damage even through the Frying Pan and the effect of the Full Metal Wall GX. So it will be setting it up. 100 damage this turn. It can deal 240 next turn. That's 180. 180 plus 100 is enough. So if Frank swings with Calamitous Slash this turn, he will be able to finish the deal the following turn with another Calamitous Slash, which does just so much more damage if the defending Pokemon has any damage counters on it. 80 more damage, ramping from 160 to 240 if the defending Pokemon is already damaged. We see Frank going for the Guzman Hala, getting Power Plant and the unit energy out of his deck. He's going to be able to equip that unit energy and use the Calamitous Slash. It's 100 damage with the buffs. Barlow needs to heal, but I'm not sure that he's going to be able to. And he certainly cannot knock this Pokemon out, so that's going to be it. Barlow scoops, and that is the game. Frank Persick emerging victorious with Garchomp and Giratina Tag Team GX. Moving on to 4-1 at the Full Grip Games League Challenge, and giving himself a shot to potentially win, but definitely a shot at top 4 at the League Challenge tonight. We're going to get Frank back here real quick to talk about the Garchomp and Giratina deck, and I'll see if there's anybody else who has finished up a match, maybe some of the other top finishers from tonight, to come back and talk about the game. And we will be right back. Thank you guys all so much for tuning in. Make sure to check out fullgripgames.com, fullgripcodes.com. We'll be right back with an interview in just a moment. We got Caleb here. Caleb actually won the challenge.
Yeah.
So 13 match points. What was your record there?
4 wins and 1 tie.
4 wins and 1 tie with Gardevoir and Sylveon GX. Now, Matt was telling me this is your second League Challenge win.
Yeah.
And this is back-to-back.
Yeah.
And this is the biggest League Challenge that Full Grip has ever hosted with 27 players. How's it feel, Caleb?
It feels good.
That's cool, man. $90 store credit.
Yep.
You win tonight as well. So anything in mind that you want to buy with a store credit?
I think I'm going to build the Raichu deck.
Awesome. Yeah, the Raichu deck's a lot of fun to play. That's sick, man. Well, congrats. What did you play in your last round that we didn't get to see?
I played Kyle with his Tina Chomp deck.
Okay. And you have the type advantage in that matchup.
Yeah.
How did it go?
I bricked immediately, but I got custom catcher and just retreated, and he just had to sit a Miss Magius up and passed, and I won.
Okay, sick. Excellent. Well, congrats on the win, Caleb.
you.
Back-to-back league challenge wins. Got to be stoked about that. You've definitely grown a lot as a player in these last couple of months, so congrats, man.
Thank you.
Yep. And that's going to be it for the 4 Games League Challenge. 27 Masters players. Caleb Remy emerging victorious and taking the whole thing down with his Gardevoir and Sylveon Tag Team GX deck. So awesome stuff. Thank you guys all so much for hanging out. Thank you for the bits. Thank you, Blue Bronco, for that sub that I caught there. Thank you guys all for the subs tonight. AAB22 with the 10 gifted subs this evening. Thank you guys all so much for following the channel as well. If you're just tuning in, maybe from Hey Fonte or from YouTube, and it's your first time catching the stream, make sure to drop the stream a follow so you can stay up to date on when I go live. We stream every single weekday. Pokemon trading card game online content as well as tabletop content like we had tonight. Thank you guys all for the viewership and the good vibes in the chat. If you are subbed up to the channel, make sure to link your account to the Discord as well so that you can get access to the sub-only Discord. I'm going to be back tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Not sure if I'm going to be doing tabletop stuff or PTCGO stuff. Either way, I will be live. We're going to play it by ear and see whatever I end up cooking up for tomorrow. Might be some PTCGO gameplay, might be some tabletop gameplay. We will have to see. But that's it for tonight. We're going to be kicking things over to Riley and JW. I believe they're streaming Tag Team Podcast right now on Riley's channel, Munner. So we are going to be rating them. Make sure to show them a good time. And I'll catch you guys back tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Take it easy and have a good one. Peace.